Carter Sullivan stands frozen at the top of his marble staircase, watching his engagement party dissolve into chaos below. His fiancée Victoria just called his housekeeper a servant who doesn't belong with decent people. The woman who raised him after his mother died now stands in the center of his ballroom, tears streaming down her face, while 200 guests stare in stunned silence. "Get out!" Victoria shouts at Margaret, pointing toward the kitchen. "You're staff. You don't eat with us." Margaret's shoulders shake. She's worn the same black dress to every important moment in Carter's life for 20 years. His high school graduation, his college acceptance, his first business deal. She saved for months to buy it, just to stand proudly in the back and watch him succeed. Now she's being humiliated in front of everyone who matters to him. Carter's hands grip the banister. He built a fortune worth $3 billion, but he's never felt more powerless than he does right now. His fiancée just crossed a line that changes everything.
Carter Sullivan learned early that money solves most problems. At 35, he owns tech companies across 4 continents, a penthouse in Manhattan, and a house in the Hamptons where celebrities vacation. His engagement to Victoria Ashford made headlines in Forbes and Vanity Fair. She's everything his social circle expects: beautiful, educated, connected to old money families. But tonight, preparing for their engagement party, Carter feels strangely empty. He adjusts his black tie in the mirror while Victoria fusses over flower arrangements downstairs. The party costs more than most people earn in a lifetime, yet he can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Margaret Sullivan, no relation, but she kept her married name after her husband died, has worked for his family since Carter was 15. She started as a housekeeper when his mother was dying of cancer. After the funeral, his father threw himself into work and left Carter with Margaret. She cooked his meals, helped with homework, and sat up with him during nightmares. When his father died 5 years later, Carter inherited everything. He could have fired Margaret, hired a professional staff, moved to a modern apartment. Instead, he kept her on, raised her salary, and gave her a suite of rooms on the 3rd floor. She's not just his housekeeper. She's family. Victoria doesn't see it that way. "She's too familiar," Victoria says, walking into Carter's bedroom without knocking. "She calls you by your first name in front of guests. It's inappropriate." Carter watches his fiancée in the mirror. Victoria grew up with maids and drivers, but she treats them like furniture. Professional distance, she calls it. Carter calls it cold. "Margaret's been with me for 20 years. "Exactly. She's comfortable, too comfortable." Victoria smooths her red dress, a designer piece that costs more than Margaret makes in 6 months. "Tonight, she needs to stay in the kitchen. This is our engagement party, not a family reunion." Carter turns around. Victoria's face is perfectly made up, her blonde hair styled by a professional team. She looks like she belongs in magazines, at charity galas, on the arm of a billionaire. But when she talks about Margaret, her voice gets sharp. "She's not just staff," Carter says quietly. "She's exactly that. Don't romanticize it." Victoria checks her lipstick one more time. "Your mother hired her to clean and cook. That's her job. She's not your family, Carter. I am." The words hit like ice water. Carter's mother died when he was 15, scared and angry and lost. Margaret held him while he cried, made his favorite meals when he couldn't eat, and never once made him feel like a burden. She celebrated his successes and comforted his failures. She's the only person who knew him before he became rich. Victoria sees his expression change. She softens her voice, steps closer. "I'm not trying to be cruel, but we're building a life together, a sophisticated life. Your friends, your business partners, they expect a certain standard. Margaret is sweet, but she doesn't fit." Carter doesn't answer. He's thinking about last week when Margaret found him working late in his study. She brought him tea and asked if he was happy, not about the business deal or the stock prices or the engagement announcement, just happy. He couldn't answer her then either. The guests are arriving. I need you downstairs. She leaves, and Carter stands alone in his bedroom. Through the window, he can see the party beginning in the garden. Caterers in white uniforms arrange champagne flutes. A string quartet plays near the fountain. Everything is perfect, polished, expensive. Margaret appears in the garden carrying a tray of appetizers. She's wearing her black dress, the one she's worn to every important event in Carter's life. Her gray hair is pulled back neatly, and she moves with quiet efficiency among the catering staff. Carter watches her pause near the fountain, looking up at the house. For a moment, their eyes meet through the window. She smiles and nods, a small gesture that means everything. She's proud of him, proud of what he's built, and proud to be part of his success. Then Victoria appears beside her, pointing toward the kitchen with sharp gestures. Margaret's smile fades. She nods again, but this time it's different. Submissive, professional. She disappears into the crowd of hired help. Carter feels something shift inside him, a crack in the foundation he's built his life on. He straightens his tie, puts on his public face, and heads downstairs to join his engagement party.
The party flows perfectly for the first hour. Carter moves through conversations about tech innovation, market trends, and investment opportunities. Victoria stays close, her hand on his arm, playing the role of devoted fiancée. She's brilliant at this, charming his business partners, laughing at the right moments, making everyone feel important. But Carter keeps looking for Margaret. She's everywhere and nowhere, refilling glasses, clearing plates, staying invisible. The other staff members are strangers hired for the evening. Margaret's the only one who belongs here, and she's the only one being treated like she doesn't. "Carter, darling," Victoria says, pulling him toward a group of investors. "James wants to discuss the merger." Carter forces himself to focus. This is his world now. Deals worth millions, partnerships that span continents, conversations that shape markets. He's good at it, successful at it. But tonight, it feels like performing. During dinner, the trouble starts. Carter arranged for Margaret to eat with the family friends, the people who've known him since childhood. She sits quietly at a corner table with Dr. Patterson, who delivered Carter, and Mrs. Green, who was his mother's best friend. These people remember when Margaret first arrived, young and scared, taking care of a grieving teenager. Victoria notices during the toast. She's raised her champagne glass, about to speak about their future together, when she spots Margaret laughing with Mrs. Green. Her smile freezes. "Excuse me," Victoria says, setting down her glass. "I'll be right back." Carter watches her walk across the ballroom, her heels clicking on marble. She approaches Margaret's table with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "Margaret," Victoria says, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "I think there's been a mistake." Margaret looks up, confused. Mrs. Green and Dr. Patterson stop talking. "I'm sorry?" Margaret says. "I'm sitting with the guests. The staff has their own area in the kitchen." The words land like a slap. Margaret's face goes pale. Mrs. Green starts to speak, but Victoria continues. "I know you've been with Carter's family for years, but tonight is formal. We have protocols." Margaret stands slowly. Carter sees her hands trembling. She's been humiliated before, by his father's business associates, by social climbers who looked down on her background, but never like this. Never in front of people who care about her. "Of course," Margaret says quietly. "I apologize." "Margaret, sit down," Mrs. Green says firmly. "You were invited to this table." Victoria's smile gets sharper. "By whom? This is my engagement party. I decide the seating arrangements." Carter pushes through the crowd. He's too far away, moving too slowly. He sees Margaret's dignity crumbling, sees the hurt spreading across her face. She's not just being dismissed, She's being erased. The staff table is more appropriate. You'll be more comfortable there. I'm comfortable here, but her voice wavers. Are you? Victoria looks around the table, at the fine china and crystal glasses, at the guests in their expensive clothes. Because this seems above your station. The words hit like a physical blow. Margaret's eyes fill with tears. She spent 20 years being part of Carter's life, celebrating his achievements, sharing his joys and sorrows. Now she's being told she doesn't belong. Carter finally reaches them. What's happening? Just a seating issue, Victoria says smoothly. Margaret was confused about where she should sit. Margaret looks at Carter, and he sees everything in her eyes. The hurt, the humiliation, the slow realization that she's not family after all. She's just the help. She's always been just the help. I should go, Margaret says. No, Carter says quickly. You're my guest. Victoria's smile falters. Carter, let's not make this dramatic. But it's too late. The damage is done. Margaret has been publicly humiliated, reduced to a servant in front of people who've known her for decades. She sees her pulling into herself, becoming smaller, apologizing for existing. I'm sorry, Margaret whispers. I didn't mean to cause trouble. She turns to leave, but Carter catches her arm. Margaret, wait. The ballroom has gone quiet. 200 guests watch the scene unfold. Victoria's face is tight with anger. Margaret's is wet with tears. Carter stands between them, feeling the weight of every choice he's made, every compromise he's accepted. She doesn't belong here, Victoria says, loud enough for everyone to hear. She's staff. She's not family. The words hang in the air like a curse. Carter looks at Margaret, really looks at her. She's 62 years old, has given him 20 years of her life, and has never asked for anything in return. She's not perfect. She's not educated or sophisticated or connected to important families, but she's real. She's been real when nothing else was. You're right, Carter says finally. She's not family. Margaret's face crumbles. She nods, accepting the final blow, and turns toward the kitchen. She's more than family, Carter continues, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. She's the only person in this room who's never lied to me.
The ballroom erupts in whispers. Victoria's face goes white, then red. Margaret stops walking, her back still turned to the crowd. Carter feels 200 pairs of eyes on him, feels his carefully constructed world beginning to crack. Carter, Victoria says, her voice dangerously quiet. You're making a scene. Good. Maybe it's time. He walks to Margaret, who stands frozen near the kitchen door. Her shoulders shake with silent sobs. When he touches her arm, she flinches. Margaret, look at me. She turns slowly. Her face is streaked with tears, her dignity shattered, but her eyes are clear, clearer than they've been all evening. You don't have to do this, she whispers. It's your engagement party. It's supposed to be celebrating love, Carter says. But there's no love here, not the kind that matters. Victoria appears beside them, her perfect composure cracking. Are you insane? These people are your investors, your partners. You're embarrassing yourself. Carter looks at his fiancée, really looks at her. She's beautiful, accomplished, everything he thought he wanted. But she's also cruel. She spent months making small comments about Margaret, little cuts designed to put her in her place. He ignored them, told himself it was just personality conflict. Margaret raised me, Carter says, loud enough for the nearest guests to hear. When my mother died, she held me when I cried. When my father ignored me, she made sure I wasn't alone. She's been at every important moment of my life. She's paid to be there, Victoria snaps. That's her job. Her job ended when I turned 18. She stayed because she cares about me, because I'm family to her, even if she's not family to you. Margaret touches his arm. Carter, please, don't ruin this for yourself. Ruin what? A marriage built on pretending you don't exist? A life where I have to choose between the woman I love and the woman who raised me? Victoria's mask slips completely. You don't love her. She's a housekeeper. She's nothing. The words hit like a gunshot. Margaret gasps, stumbles backward. Carter feels something break inside him, something he didn't know was fragile until this moment. Get out, he says to Victoria. What? Get out of my house. The engagement is off. The ballroom goes completely silent. Victoria stares at him, her mouth open. She's never been dismissed, never been rejected, never been told she's not wanted. You're choosing her over me? Victoria's voice rises. A servant over your fiancé? I'm choosing someone who loves me over someone who loves my money. Victoria's face twists with rage. You'll regret this. You'll lose everything. Your reputation, your social standing, your business relationships. Maybe, but I'll keep my soul. Victoria looks around the ballroom, at the guests who are recording this moment on their phones, at the reporters who will write about this tomorrow. Her engagement announcement will become a humiliation story. Her perfect life will become a cautionary tale. This is a mistake, she says, her voice breaking. You're throwing away everything for a housekeeper. I'm throwing away nothing for everything. Victoria takes off her engagement ring, a 5-carat diamond that cost more than most people's houses, and throws it at Carter's feet. It bounces off the marble with a sharp sound that echoes through the silence. You deserve each other, she says, and storms out. The ballroom stays quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, the whispers begin. Phones appear, recording the aftermath. Carter knows that by morning this will be everywhere. Social media, gossip sites, business news. His reputation will be in ruins. He looks at Margaret, who's still crying. I'm sorry, she says. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this to happen. I know, Carter says, but it needed to happen. Margaret shakes her head. You loved her. You were going to marry her. I thought I loved her. But love doesn't humiliate people. Love doesn't make you choose between the people you care about. Margaret looks around the ballroom, at the guests who are still staring, still whispering. She sees the ring on the floor, the overturned champagne glasses, the ruins of what was supposed to be a perfect evening. I should go, she says quietly. Where? Away. This is too much. You need space to fix this. Carter feels panic rising. He's just lost his fiancée, his social standing, probably half his business relationships. He can't lose Margaret, too. Don't leave, he says. Please. But Margaret is already walking away, heading for the kitchen, for the servants' stairs, for the life she's lived in the shadows of his success. Carter watches her go, surrounded by the ruins of his engagement party, feeling more alone than he has since he was 15 years old. The guests begin to leave, murmuring apologies and excuses. The caterers pack up untouched food. The string quartet stops playing. Within an hour, the ballroom is empty, except for Carter and the echoes of what he's just destroyed.
Carter wakes up the next morning to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The story has already broken. Billionaire dumps fiancé for housekeeper, headlines scream from gossip sites. His phone buzzes constantly with reporters, investors, and friends demanding explanations. He ignores them all and goes looking for Margaret. Her suite on the 3rd floor is empty. Her clothes are gone, her personal photos removed from the dresser. The only thing left is a handwritten note on the bed. Thank you for everything. Take care of yourself, Margaret. Carter reads it 3 times, looking for clues about where she went. There are none. Margaret has vanished as quietly as she lived, leaving no trace except 20 years of memories. His housekeeper is gone. His fiancé is gone. His reputation is in ruins. The phone keeps ringing with damage control calls from his publicist, his lawyer, his business partners. Everyone wants to know what he was thinking, how he'll fix this, when he'll issue an apology. Carter doesn't answer. He sits in his empty house, surrounded by the life he built, and realizes how hollow it all sounds without Margaret's quiet presence. No one to bring him tea when he works late. No one to ask if he's happy. No one who cares about him instead of his money. The business consequences hit within days. 3 major investors pull out of his latest venture. His company's stock price drops 12%. Social media explodes with takes about his mental breakdown and midlife crisis. Victoria gives interviews to entertainment shows, painting herself as the victim of an unstable man who confused his housekeeper with his mother. Carter's lawyer schedules damage control meetings. His publicist crafts statements about personal difficulties and taking time to reassess priorities. His business partners suggest he take a leave of absence until the scandal dies down. Carter fires them all. He spends his days trying to find Margaret. She has no social media, no credit card trail, no forwarding address. She's vanished completely, like she never existed at all. Carter realizes how little he knows about her life outside his house. Does she have friends, family, a place she considers home? He visits the places she used to go, the grocery store where she bought his favorite foods, the church where she attended Sunday services, the library where she volunteered with reading programs. No one has seen her. No one knows where she went. Mrs. Green calls him after a week. She's staying with her sister in Vermont, she says. She's heartbroken, Carter. She thinks you ruined your life. She saved my life, Carter says. Where in Vermont? She made me promise not to tell you. She wants you to move on, find someone who fits your world. I laughed bitterly. My world is a joke. I spent 20 years building something that crumbles the moment I tell the truth. Then maybe it wasn't worth building. The words hit home. Carter looks around his penthouse, the imported marble, the designer furniture, the art collection worth millions. Everything is beautiful, expensive, perfect. Everything is empty. He sells the penthouse, the Hamptons house, the yacht, the art collection. His friends think he's having a breakdown, but Carter has never felt more clear-headed. He's been living someone else's life, chasing someone else's dreams, building someone else's version of success. The money from the sales goes into a trust fund for literacy programs, Margaret's favorite cause. He keeps enough to live comfortably, but not extravagantly. He moves to a smaller apartment, drives a normal car, wears clothes that don't cost more than Margaret's monthly salary. His former friends stop calling. His business shrinks to manageable size. His social calendar empties. For the first time in 20 years, Carter lives quietly, but he still can't find Margaret. He writes her letters, gives them to Mrs. Green to forward. He never gets responses. He doesn't know if Margaret is reading them or throwing them away. He doesn't know if she's happy, if she's safe, if she ever thinks about him. The loneliness is crushing. Carter realizes he spent his entire adult life surrounded by people who needed something from him. Business deals, social connections, access to wealth. Margaret was the only person who just wanted him to be okay. Now she's gone, and he's finally okay. But there's no one left to see it. Winter comes early that year. Carter sits in his modest apartment, watching snow fall outside his window. He's lost everything he thought mattered, and gained something he can't name. Peace, maybe. Honesty. The ability to look at himself in the mirror without flinching. But peace is cold comfort when you're alone. He picks up his phone to call Mrs. Green again, to beg for Margaret's address, to ask if she'll at least let him apologize properly. Then he stops. Margaret left because she thought she was a burden. Chasing her will only prove her right. So Carter waits. He builds a smaller, quieter life and hopes that someday
Margaret will want to be part of it again.
Spring arrives 6 months later with a package that has no return address. Carter opens it to find a small wooden box, the kind used for jewelry. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, is a photograph. It's from his high school graduation. Carter stands in his cap and gown, grinning at the camera. Behind him, barely visible in the crowd, is Margaret. She's wearing her black dress, the same one she wore to his engagement party. Her face is radiant with pride, her eyes bright with joy. Carter remembers that day. He was 18, about to leave for college, terrified of the future. Margaret had made his favorite breakfast, helped him with his tie, and driven him to the ceremony in her old Honda. She sat in the back row, cheering louder than anyone when his name was called. Tucked behind the photo is a note in Margaret's careful handwriting. Dear Carter, I found this while packing. I thought you might want it. I hope you're happy. You deserve happiness. Love always. Margaret. Carter's hands shake as he reads it. The note is brief, impersonal, but it's contact. After 6 months of silence, Margaret has reached out. She's alive. She's thinking of him. She wants him to be happy. He turns the photo over, and in faded ink, someone has written, Carter's graduation. So proud. M. Carter stares at the words until they blur. This is what he lost when he chose wealth over love, status over family. Not a housekeeper, not an employee, but the one person who is genuinely proud of him. He drives to Vermont that same day. Mrs. Green gives him the address reluctantly. She doesn't want to see you, she warns. She's building a new life. I know, Carter says, but I need to try. Margaret's sister lives in a small town surrounded by mountains. Carter finds the house easily, a modest white cottage with a garden full of spring flowers. Through the front window, he can see Margaret reading in an armchair, her hair a little grayer, her face a little thinner. Carter sits in his car for an hour, watching her. She looks peaceful, settled. Maybe Mrs. Green is right. Maybe he should leave her alone. But then, Margaret looks up from her book and sees him. For a moment, they stare at each other through the glass. Margaret's face goes through a dozen emotions: surprise, joy, fear, sadness. She sets down her book and comes to the door. Carter, she says quietly, what are you doing here? I got your package. Thank you. Margaret nods but doesn't invite him in. You look different. I feel different. Carter gestures to his simple clothes, his ordinary car. I changed things. Simplified. Good, Margaret says. You were too busy before. They stand on her sister's porch. Two people who raised each other, who lost each other, who don't know how to find their way back. I'm sorry, Carter says finally, for everything. For not protecting you, for letting you hurt you, for taking so long to figure out what mattered. You figured it out, Margaret says. That's what counts. I want you to come home. Margaret shakes her head. I can't. Too much has changed. Then I'll stay here. I'll move to Vermont, find a house nearby. I don't need the city, the business, any of it. I just need you in my life. Margaret's eyes fill with tears. Carter, you can't build your life around me. I'm an old woman. You need to find someone to love, someone to marry, someone to build a future with. I had that, Carter says. She told me you weren't family. Maybe she was right. No, Carter says firmly. She was wrong. You're the only family I have. Margaret wipes her eyes. I'm proud of you for standing up for me, for changing your life, but you don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. They talk for another hour on the porch, but Carter can see that Margaret has made her decision. She's not coming back.
She's not letting him reorganize his life around her. She's setting him free the way she's always done. Carter drives back to the city as the sun sets. He doesn't have Margaret back, but he has something else. Her love, her pride, her belief that he can build something better. It's not the ending he wanted, but it's the ending that makes him whole. The photograph sits on his desk now, a reminder of what love looks like when it's real. Carter still hopes that someday Margaret will change her mind, but if she doesn't, he'll carry her with him anyway, the way she's always carried him.